Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are on the Update Winged Lines dev server once again, and this time it is time to have a look at the new Israeli aviation tree. Now I want to stress that when it comes to this Israeli aviation tree, not everything is here yet on this dev server, and also at the same time, not everything will be finished either. And there's still a decent amount of vehicles. Some are copies from other nations, but others do have some unique features. So we'll go from left to right and just go through all of them and talk about them and what is going on. So the first vehicle that is in the left-hand line for the tech tree is the Spitfire Mark 9C. Now the Spitfire Mark 9C is already in the game as a Soviet premium vehicle, and this one is no different. It has access to the 477s, has access to the two Hispano Mark IIs, and will be a nice little starter vehicle. It also has the Merlin 61 engine, giving it 1473 horsepower for the takeoff power, so overall will work very well. Doesn't have too much in the form of ground pounding capabilities, but because it is Israeli, it actually gets something unique. These 8 centimeter FLZ rackets, and also it can get the 250-pound bombs. This is something which differentiates the Israeli vehicles from some of the other tech trees. It will get slightly different ordnance sometimes, and the Mark 9C is no different. So this will give it a little bit of a boost when it comes to ground forces and also naval, if they ever come out. 300 millimeters of pen and 260, 150 respectively mean that these penetrate quite a lot, but don't have too much explosive damage, so you're going to have to aim pretty well with them. The next vehicle is the S199. This is a vehicle I'm specifically looking forward to, and the reason is because it's a bastardized version of a BF-109. It's based off a BF-109G, and from there it was built in Czechoslovakia, but they didn't have too many DB605 engines, so they ended up using the UMO 211F engines. Now, the UMO 211s were used on other machines that you'll know in game, such as the HE111s. You can see the H16 here has access to the 211Fs as well, and also on stuff like JU88s and other things like that, where the DB series was obviously more of a BF-109 engine and also other vehicles as well. So the 211F is a completely different engine and means that this BF-109 or the S199 as it's known will have a different performance with 1120 max power in the engine and also different overheating characteristics. One of the other key features about this vehicle is it also has a modification for the MG151 20mm cannon. So if you uninstall it, this is your stock configuration. It only has two 13mm, and then it has two 7.92mm guns. So until you get that modification, this thing has much more limited firepower compared to once you get the MG151s. It's very similar to the way that the Key 43s are set up in the tech tree for the Japanese. So that's a little bit of a problem for it, but not a huge one. You'll get around it. And then it also gets access to 70 kilo bombs, ST-70s, 50 kilos, and also slightly different 50 kilo bombs. And I don't know the difference between these. They seem the same right now. Maybe they look different. But yeah, so once again, slightly different ordnance, and that will be a little bit more useful when it comes to playing in ground forces. Then we have a B-17G. This is the same as the B-17G. It also floats, but don't worry, that'll be fixed. The favorite part for me about this B-17, the skin is absolutely beautiful. Like, look at this skin. Isn't this absolutely stunning? I think this is probably the best skin in the game when it comes to the Israelis. I really like the brown and blue color and striped, and also the yellow and black stripes. I think all of it looks really, really nice. So props to whoever made this skin. And obviously seeing the updated model of the B-17 B-17 from last update. Always lovely to see as well when it comes to it. So once again, the major difference between this B-17G and the one in the American tech tree is access to different armaments in the form of secondaries. So 16-100s, 12 250s, 6 500s, and 8 250s as well. So these are the different armaments you'll be able to bring. We'll have to see how effective they are when it comes to the battlefield, but we've had 3 vehicles in the tech tree and 3 different loadouts when it comes to its secondaries compared to its predecessors. We also have the Spitfire Mark 9 CW. This is the clipped wing Spitfire, and also has access to the 212.7s and the 220mm. So kind of similar to the loadout of the clipped wing Spit in the British tech tree, but it is a Mark 9 CW, so it has access to the Merlin 66 as well. So it should have pretty good rate of climb, should have decent overall mobility, and also be able to turn pretty well. It doesn't get any secondaries though, but it does interestingly get the 150 octane fuel, which is really powerful, by the way, one of the best modifications in the game when it comes to aircraft. And this one gives it, you know, the extra engine power, the max speed, the climb rate, the turn time, all of that great stuff. 150 octane fuel is stupid powerful. It's way more powerful than the engine injection on a plane like this. So the fact it gets this gives the vehicle a massive boost, and also helps it out quite a lot. Then we have access to a P51D20NA. This vehicle is actually a premium vehicle in the American tech tree, so if you grind through the Israeli tech tree, you can get it for free. You don't have to pay for it, which I think is always a nice added bonus for machines like this, kind of like the LA-11 for the Chinese, and also a few other vehicles like the Spitfire Mark 9C in this tech tree. It just means that, yeah, you don't have to buy stuff and you can still play the vehicles. So this is a standard P51D, nothing too different to it. The only difference is the loadouts for the ground. It has the AR-6, as they're known, the AR rockets, which are these ones, probably slightly different to the HVARs. You can see, I don't think they're fully modeled yet, because they still have like the gray color to them. So that normally means that they haven't got their own own colors yet, but it also gets the 1,000-pound bombs. It gets the 500-pound bombs as well, and the 250s. So this will be good in a ground striking capability as well. It also has the late war belts on it, the APIT belts for the tracers, which is fantastic. So it doesn't have the early war belts, which could make it a little bit annoying to play, but overall a nice little machine with slightly different secondaries once again. Then we have the Meteor NF13, or as I like to call it, the Viagra Meteor. As you can see, our boy is happy to see us. Now this is a night fighting variant of the Meteor, or more proper for it is more. It's like an all-weather interceptor kind of thing. And what they've done is they've elongated the nose. They've stuck a radar in it, the model Mark 10, and it gives you a range of 8.5 kilometers. There's also 2 people in here. I know it only shows 1, but there is 2 people who are sat in here just to show you. I'll put it into a realistic battle. And also what they've done is they've moved the guns. So you can see the 2 crew there, even though it's only showing 1. And yeah, the crew itself is in the center, but the guns are not. So this is the first Meteor which doesn't have centrally mounted guns. Most of the Meteors have their centrally mounted stuff, whereas this has it on the wings. So convergence becomes an issue for this aircraft right here. Also has the Derwent 8 engines, so should provide enough power to push this thing around, and doesn't get any secondary armaments, so you are just a fighter. So it's like a lot of the other Meteors in the game, and generally the Meteors don't feel great above the first 2, but maybe this one won't feel too bad, especially since it has the added usefulness of the radar itself. We'll have to see how effective that actually is. Then you have the Origin. This is just the one from the French tech tree. It has 420mm M50s. Its flight performance isn't very good, and generally it's not a very nice plane to fly. You'll see me say this a lot about a lot of the French aircraft. The Barajan isn't here though, only the Orajan, and this vehicle does have access to secondaries, two 1000s and also the two 500s. It gets the standard T10 140s and the T10 151s, so I'm pretty sure that this is the same as what it gets in the French tech tree. I don't think there's any difference to it when it comes to it. You can see the Orajan is here. Yeah, it looks pretty similar to me. Slightly different loadouts though, comparing the two sets of vehicles. So yeah, it's a vehicle which yeah, it's slightly different. So you can get like both basically, slightly different, but not hugely different. And the flight characteristics of this are not great. It should at least be fully modeled though. It should have a good cockpit and everything. But yeah, it's just a machine we already have with slightly different secondaries. Then you got the Voto 2A. Now, this thing is actually really interesting. It's a machine which can be used as an interceptor if you want. I also believe the French have the Voto 2A, the IDF AF version, and also they have one in the tech tree. But the difference between the one in the tech tree for Israel and the one for France is this one gets access to the Chafriers. It gets the Chafriers air-to-air missiles, which are very similar to the AIM-9Bs. If you want to have a look at the stats, here they are. They are already in game on the Voto 2A in the French tech tree. But remember, when the Israeli Aviation tech tree comes out, all of the premiums from the other tech trees will either at the time be removed from sale, or they will be eventually removed from sale. So you're going to lose stuff like the Votor, you're going to lose stuff like the F-84F, and so on and so forth. Now the Chafrier air-to-airs, as I said, very similar to AIM-9Bs, and this machine has some really dodgy loadouts when it comes to stuff. So it can carry some bombs, but these are 360 kilo bombs with 206 kilos of TNT equivalent. Then you've got 250 kilo bombs, and then also 500 kilo bombs. So just dodgy. Then also you have some different 500 kilo bombs, the GP ones, and a ton of different rockets as well. They bring back the 151s and the 140s, and then you also have SNEBs. So whichever ones you want to bring along, or you can use it as an interceptor with the Chafriers. But generally you don't want to do that because this thing handles like a barge. So actually intercepting stuff doesn't really work too well in the machine. The only thing that'll help it is obviously its airborne. It does also get access to the 4 30mm DEFA 551s. So there's also that, which is quite nice, but not something which once again you'll get on target too much. Has access to the two Schneckmers, the ATAR 101E3s, which is quite good, and the fuel making up the center of the vehicle. So another thing that I don't think this machine has, I'll check because obviously this might be slightly different to the French one, is the French variant. Look at these bombs, by the way. Don't they look really cool? Like, I think they look quite nice. One thing about this variant is the French variant doesn't get access to a bombing site, and the premium version doesn't either. So I'm just going to check that real quick to make sure that it does or doesn't, just so you know going forward. Also, at the same time, there is another Votor, which will be coming to the Israeli tech tree, and it's in the form of the Votor 2N, and it's a slightly different machine, should have slightly different characteristics to it, but we'll get into it once it's added, because I don't want to get stuff wrong, because it might be a different variant that I'm thinking of. Obviously the Votor is the Votor. It's quite slow getting off the ground because it's quite a heavy behemoth, but once it gets up to speed, it's hard to catch sometimes. Maybe not at its current level, but at least it used to be. But yeah, it seems like it doesn't have a bomb bay on it, which kind of sucks, but what are you going to do? There we go. Should be overall an interesting plane though, that you'll be able to do different things in if you want to, so we'll have to see how it ends up. Then you have the Meteor F8. The Meteor F8 is already in the game. It does have a really interesting skin on it though, with this black and white setup on it. And the vehicle, the F8, I'm not sure if it's a tech tree vehicle. I don't think it is. I mean, you have the F Mark 8 G41, but that's obviously different. The only Mark 8 we have is the Reaper, which is obviously the bomb carrier. So yeah, this is, I suppose, very similar to another premium vehicle that you can get access to in the standard Israeli tech tree. It does have the centrally mounted 20mm because it doesn't have the horrific radar in the front of it, and also gets access to the Rolls-Royce Doman 8s once again, with a slightly different setup when it comes to the wings. You can see they are slightly clipped. This will obviously help it at certain altitudes, and also it gets access to the AR-8 once again, so 39mm worth of pen. Not really too much to write home about, but at least it's better than nothing, I suppose. So another vehicle which has slight ground attack capabilities compared to other nations' similar vehicles. Then you have the Mystère 4. This is in the French tech tree. The Mystère 4A specifically has access to some really good guns in the form of 2 Defers. These really keep it at the BR that it's at, and it also gets access to the Hispano Suiza Verdun, the 350. This machine performs okay. It has a few issues. It does have a radar, which is kind of interesting. The ANA PG30 in the front of it. It's only a rangefinder though, so it doesn't really do too much in most of the major game modes. And its flight performance, it's pretty slow compared to a few of the other planes that are about the place. It is quite maneuverable though, especially once you get modifications on it, which is quite nice. But against like a MiG-15 Bis or a Sabre, which are at this BR, I would rather take the MiG-15 Bis or the Sabre. Let's just put it like that. Secondaries, it has a ridiculous amount of them. So you can get 500 kilo bombs and 250s. You can also get some T-10 151s that we've seen before, and also the centrally mounted SNEBs. The SNEBs are actually pretty cool. They do add a lot of extra weight, which is generally why I don't like taking them, but they're in this like little centrally mounted area here, and when you fire them, it actually pops out and fires. It's something that's already present on the Mystère 4A. It looks really cool when it does it though, so definitely worth having a look at some points. They're just not very good though, the rockets themselves. They're quite small. They don't really do too much, and also they don't have a huge TNT equivalent. They have good pen though, so might be useful in ground forces. Then you've got the A4E early M. So the slight difference between the A4E early in the American tech tree. The main thing that this gets is the Walleyes, and also gets access to M9Bs. So it gets access to all the crazy stuff that a lot of the machines get access to when it comes to the A4s. It does get a 2,000-pound bomb as well, if you want to really destroy somebody's life. It does get access to the flares and the countermeasures, as well, 60 of them in total, and keeps the 220mm guns compared to before. So gets the Walleyes. It can carry the 500 kilo bombs if it wants to, which looks absolutely hilarious on it. The main difference between this and other A4s is the loadouts that it gets access to, and we're going to have to work out which loadouts are best, which loadouts are worse, which ones are going to work best, all of that good stuff, because they are slightly different to the American loadouts, which we are used to when it comes to these planes. So it's definitely something to work out. The vehicle does have CCRP on its bombs, but it doesn't have CCIP, which is interesting. So you will be able to use the target marker distance. It does have a radar, but it's not noted yet, and it has the J52 P6A Pratt & Whitney engine as well, being able to power this thing. So the secondaries, once again, being the interesting thing about these, and going to continue to be going along. Then you got the Sambad. The Sambad is a Super Mystère, And once again, don't have a lot of love for the Super Mister. Spaded it pretty recently. Feels really bad without the engine upgrade. Feels pretty meh with the engine upgrade, because there's a lot of very strong vehicles at 9.3 and 9.7 that you have to fight. And I don't think moving them around would actually help this thing, because even against certain 9.0s and 9.3s, it struggles quite a lot in performance. It does have access to the 2 DEFAs though, the 30mm, which is quite nice, and also gets access to the Chafriers once again, which, as I said, pretty similar to the M9Bs. Can get access to the 8 100s and also 2 500s and 2 250s, so once again shining in its secondary armament loadout, and everything else on it is pretty bog standard. So secondaries are pretty cool, and at the same time I'm not really looking forward to spading another Super Mister. I suppose I have the experience of it now, but it wasn't a very pleasant experience at the time, and I don't think this one will be any better. Then you've got the SAR, I'm guessing is how you say it. This is another Super Mister, but it is slightly different. The major difference in it is the engine. This has the Snecma Atar 101 G2 with afterburning thrust of 4,140 kgf, whereas if you have a look at the standard Sambad, it has the Snecma Atar 101 G2, which has access to 4,140 kgf. Is that correct? Okay. I might be seeing this as the wrong vehicle, so I apologize if that's the case. But the SAR here has access to the 2 DEFAs. It has access to the Chafriers once again, but these are Chafriers 2s, so they have exactly the same stats as the Chafrier ones, so we're going to have to see if that continues when it comes to the vehicle itself. I'm sure these will be more equivalent to like AIM-9Es instead of AIM-9Bs. That's normally how this stuff goes. And it also gets all the crazy secondaries as well. The 500 kilo bombs, 360s once they're back, Mighty Mouses, and also some other ones as well. So yeah, you can bring a kind of crazy amount of ordnance because of where the missiles are mounted. Now it leaves the pylons on the outside to be able to be used, so that's pretty cool. And it also has bomb CCIP and CCRP, so you can use that in ground or air and be very effective at bombing with it. So this is another aircraft which is going to be fantastic as a support vehicle for the ground forces. Then, when it comes to the next vehicle, you have the F4E Phantom. The F4E Phantom is already in the game in the American tech tree, but this one is once again slightly different. It has access to the AGM-62As and also the GBU-815s and the AGM-65Bs. So it has access to all that stuff. It also gets AIM-9Ps alongside its A7E2 DFs, the dogfighting Sparrows, so you can just go full on crazy loadout on this if you want to. You can also bring along countermeasures as well. You can bring along three 2,000-pound bombs if you really feel like it, which I think is, kind of an interesting little loadout. And you can bring all the bombs in the world, 16 750s, 24 500s. You can bring 11 1000 if you want to, in a pretty big old configuration. So it's your standard Phantom. It has access to a ton of really cool stuff, including the 3 setup on the guns, the 20mm, and also the walleyes and the AGM-65Bs. So this has access to everything you'd want. It has the Mavericks, it has the guided bombs, it has the rockets, it has the bombs, it has the missiles, it has everything. This is not missing anything, and also AIM-9Ps and A7E2s. So I'd say that's pretty nice. And the countermeasures go up to 90, so pretty standard on the Phantom across the board, and is powered by the J79 GE17 engines, which is going to work very well. Does have access to all of the crazy stuff, so cannon, rocket, and bomb CCIP and CCRP on the bombs as well, so it will make bombing easier for you in whatever game mode you are playing. And also the 20mm Vulcan makes a return, the M61, always a fantastic gun at top tier and does a lot of damage. I recently spaded the F4C and had a great time. The Nesher, so this is a Mirage 5 with some Israeli technology inputted into it. So it has access to the 230mm DEFAs, the 5.52s, which are really cool. Both are centrally mounted right here in the fuselage. Then it has access to the Snecma ATAR 9C with 6090 afterburning thrust. It does have a radar, the Serrano Ibis, which has a pretty good range on it. But one of the things is this machine doesn't have like CCIP or CCRP for anything. So right now, you're just going to kind of have to guess where to drop stuff, which I'm not sure if that'll stay. I'm guessing it'll get some kind of form of, bomb computing or rocket computing or even gun computing, but at least right now that's not the case. The vehicle really shines when it comes to its secondaries. It has no countermeasures, so it won't be able to keep itself alive, which is a bit of a problem. But it does get access to a ton of different missiles, 9Ds, 9Gs, and Shafrid 2s, which I believe the Shafrid 2s will be stock. Then you get some 1,000-pound bombs. You also get the 750s from the Americans, the 2000s as well. You can bring along, and it also gets the 3,000-pound demolition bomb, which we only, I believe, before saw on the F3H. Now it's actually on a few vehicles, including the new F105D. So you can bring along a bunch of 2000s, you can bring along a fighter configuration if you want, but this thing is more designed for ground attack, which is why a mixture of a loadout I think will be worth it. So something like this one, like the 3 2000s and then 2 AIM-9Gs, maybe even something like the 7 1000s and the AIM-9Gs would work better. You can actually see here it's got like an extended part of the area where it picks on the bomb, which I think is pretty cool. But obviously this weighs it down quite a lot. But yeah, it's a Mirage 5 in the Israeli sense, and also at the same time has access to just a ton of really nice bells and whistles. Remember, France is probably getting a Mirage 5 as well this update, so we'll have to see what loadouts it has. But the main thing to take away from Israel is there's a lot of copy and paste vehicles, but their secondary loadouts are generally different to their other tech tree competitors. It also has a lot of standard vehicles in it, which are premiums in other tech trees, which is really nice. And at the same time, it shouldn't be too hard to get to when it comes to getting jets if you're interested in them. So that's the whole Israeli tech tree that is available right now on the dev server. I'm sure more will come in the future, but we'll have to see. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Professor X 1718, Orange Tail, Sakoshi Tiger, BRFC 15, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, and then Kyle Kin, Bareen, Lafouche, and also Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.